Have you ever felt that quiet spark with a woman and found yourself wondering if she feels it too, but you couldn't quite read the moment? Curious. Today, I'm going to walk you through 3 subtle signals that often mean desire has already started to grow. And the last one is so understated that most men completely miss it, even when it's happening right in front of them. Welcome back to I'm Glad You're Here. Sighs. Let me start by saying something important. A lot of men sense these moments, but they struggle to interpret them. The signals are there, but they're so quiet that they slip past unnoticed. And if you've ever replayed a conversation in your head, wondering whether she liked you or walked away only to later think you might have missed something, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you lack awareness or confidence. It simply means you were never taught how to read the way attraction is expressed from her side. Because the truth is, men and women often experience attraction differently. For many men, it feels direct and immediate. You notice someone, you feel drawn in, and you want to move toward that feeling quickly. But for many women, attraction unfolds more gradually. It's not a sudden leap forward. It's more like opening small doors one at a time and seeing who notices. Thoughtful. Women tend to observe first. They pay attention to the emotional atmosphere. They create little moments, testing for comfort, curiosity, and mutual energy before allowing anything deeper to develop. And here's the key. Interest is rarely announced loudly. It's expressed quietly. It shows up in body language, in tone, in eye contact, in small actions that are easy to overlook if you're not paying attention. Curious. Once you begin to understand this, everything starts to shift. Situations that once felt confusing begin to make sense. Moments that once passed you by start to stand out clearly. And that's what we're going to explore together. But before we go further, think about this for a second. Curious. Have you ever looked back at a moment from years ago and suddenly realized she might have been interested in you? Maybe it was a coworker who always found reasons to talk to you. Maybe someone at a gathering who stayed close to you longer than expected. Maybe a woman who laughed at your jokes just a bit more than everyone else. At the time, you brushed it off as friendliness. But later you wondered. If that's happened to you, you're not alone. It happens to countless men. And it's not because they weren't paying attention. Thoughtful. It's because no one ever explained how to recognize these quiet signals. So today we're going to slow things down and look closely at 3 of the clearest signs that attraction may already be present. These aren't bold moves or dramatic gestures. They're subtle behaviors that reveal what's happening. Beneath the surface. And once you start noticing them, your entire perspective on social interaction can change. Let's begin with the first signal. It's simple but powerful. Touch. Thoughtful. Not just any touch, but those moments where she reaches out without a clear reason. This isn't an accidental brush or a formal gesture. It's something slightly more intentional, even if she isn't consciously aware of it. When attraction begins to activate, the body naturally looks for ways to reduce distance. Touch becomes one of those ways. Picture this. You're talking, sharing a laugh, and as she responds, she lightly places her hand on your arm. Curious. It lingers just a second longer than necessary. Not long enough to feel obvious, but enough for you to notice. That small extra moment carries meaning. It often signals comfort. And comfort is where attraction begins. When someone feels uneasy, they keep distance. Their movements stay controlled. But when they feel relaxed and curious, their body softens and small touches start to appear. Curious. It might show up in different ways. She adjusts something on your shirt playfully. She taps your arm while laughing. She lightly guides you through a space. None of these actions shout desire, but together they create a pattern. Thoughtful. There was a man who once shared a story about meeting someone at a small gathering. They talked casually, laughed, and enjoyed the moment. During the conversation, she brushed something off his sleeve, then later touched his arm again while laughing. He didn't think much of it. Months later, when they met again, she told him she had been trying to see if he felt the same connection. He hadn't noticed any of it at the time, and this happens often. Most men are conditioned to notice obvious signals, but attraction usually speaks in quiet ways. Thoughtful research even supports this. When people feel drawn to someone, they naturally move closer, orient their body toward them, and initiate small physical contact. It's not calculated, it's instinctive. Chemicals in the brain linked to bonding and trust, like oxytocin, play a role in this. Curious touch can help reinforce that sense of connection. So when a woman finds small reasons to touch you more than once, it often means she feels comfortable and engaged with you. And that comfort can be the first step towards something deeper. Now let's move into the second signal, and this one reveals even more. It's found in the eyes. Curious. There's a reason people say the eyes reveal what words don't. A huge amount of emotional information is communicated through eye contact. Interest, curiosity, attraction, all of it can be seen before it's ever spoken. Thoughtful. When a woman starts to feel drawn to you, the way she looks at you changes. It's not about constant staring. In fact, it usually follows a rhythm. She looks at you, holds the gaze just a little longer than expected, then looks away softly, only to return again moments later. That pattern, look, soften, glance away, return, is one of the most subtle signs of growing attraction. Curious. What's interesting is that much of this happens automatically. When someone is interested, their body responds in ways they don't consciously control. Even the pupils can slightly expand when looking at someone they're drawn to. But more important than that is the feeling behind the gaze. Thoughtful. Her eyes may appear softer, warmer, more present. Instead of brief, polite eye contact, there's a sense of genuine attention. It feels like she's not just hearing you, but actually experiencing the moment with you. What's interesting is that much of this happens automatically. Curious. When someone is interested, their body responds in ways they don't consciously control. Even the pupils can slightly expand when looking at someone they're drawn to. But more important than that is the feeling behind the gaze. Her eyes may appear softer, warmer, more present. Instead of brief, polite eye contact, there's a sense of genuine attention. Thoughtful. It feels like she's not just hearing you, but actually experiencing the moment with you. You might recognize this scenario. You're sitting across from her, talking about something meaningful. She looks at you with a gentle focus, smiles slightly, then glances down, almost shyly. Curious. A moment later, she looks back at you again. And this continues naturally throughout the conversation. That kind of attention creates a feeling that's hard to ignore. It can make a busy room feel quieter, more personal, almost like the two of you are in your own space, even when others are around. Sighs. There was a man who once described a dinner with friends where he noticed this. Every time he spoke, she turned toward him, gave him her full attention, and smiled before briefly looking away and returning her gaze. Even though the room was full, the interaction felt surprisingly intimate. That's the power of focused attention. When someone looks at you that way, they're silently saying, "You matter in this moment." Thoughtful. And here's something else. When a woman feels interest, she often listens more closely. She remembers small details, reacts emotionally, and stays engaged. That level of attention is rarely just politeness. It usually reflects genuine curiosity. Curious. Now let's move to the third signal, and this is the one most people overlook completely. It's a shift in space. Curious. When attraction starts to build, a woman may begin to create small moments of privacy where there weren't any before. Not in an obvious way, but in subtle, natural ways. Think about social settings. Most interactions happen in groups, but when she feels drawn to you, she may look for ways to step slightly outside that shared space. Just enough to create a moment that belongs to the two of you. She might say, "Come with me for a second," and show you something across the room. Curious. She might suggest getting a drink together. She might lean in and lower her voice to share something quietly meant just for you. These moments might seem small, but they carry meaning. Psychologically, they create what can be called a microenvironment, a space where connection can grow more naturally without the distraction of others. Sighs. This allows her to observe you more closely, not to judge you, but to feel the interaction more personally. It's a quiet invitation to step closer, emotionally and socially. There was a man who once shared a story about a party. In a room full of people, a woman he had been casually talking to invited him to look at something off to the side. It wasn't anything special, just a photo album. But once they stepped away, the conversation changed. Curious. It became more relaxed, more personal, and lasted much longer than expected. Later, he realized the moment itself was the point, not the album. And that's how it often works. The shift into a smaller, more private space creates the opportunity for connection to deepen. When that happens, what matters most is how you respond. Thoughtful. Do you stay calm and present? Do you engage naturally? Or do you overthink and disrupt the moment? Attraction grows best when things feel easy and unforced. Thoughtful. Now take a moment and think. Have you ever experienced something like this? Someone asking you to step aside, lowering their voice, or finding a reason to continue the conversation away from others? Curious. If so, there's a strong chance you were witnessing this signal. Before we wrap up, there's something important to remember. Understanding these signs isn't about control or manipulation. It's about awareness. When you recognize how people naturally express interest, everything becomes simpler. You stop guessing, you stop forcing, you simply observe and respond. When you begin to notice touch, eye contact, and those small shifts in space, you start to see what was always there. Thoughtful attraction rarely begins with something loud or dramatic. Most of the time, it starts quietly, with small gestures and shared moments. Confidence doesn't come from saying the perfect thing, it comes from understanding what's happening around you. Size. When you see clearly, you act naturally. And how you respond matters just as much as what you notice. You don't need to analyze every detail. Calm. If she touches your arm, stay present. If she holds eye contact, meet it calmly. If she creates a moment for just the two of you, enjoy it without rushing. The most attractive energy is calm, genuine, and engaged. Thoughtful. Attraction isn't something you chase. It's something you recognize when it appears and allow to grow. There was a man who once believed he was terrible at reading women, but one day while having a simple conversation at a coffee shop, he noticed something different. She touched his arm while laughing. She held eye contact with warmth. Then she suggested sitting somewhere quieter. For the first time, he recognized all three signals, and instead of overthinking, he stayed present. Curious. They ended up talking for nearly an hour. Later, he said something that stood out. He realized he wasn't trying to create anything. He was simply noticing what was already there. That's the real shift. Moving from confusion to clarity. Thoughtful. So here's a small challenge for you. The next time you're in a social setting, slow down. Observe more. Notice who turns toward you, who maintains eye contact, who finds reasons to stay engaged. You might be surprised by how much is being communicated without words. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And if you want more insights like this, subscribe to We Go Beyond Surface Level Advice and explore what truly shapes human connection. Thoughtful. At the end of the day, relationships aren't about tricks. They're about understanding people. They're about recognizing those quiet signals that reveal interest, warmth, and desire. Sincere. So the next time you notice a gentle touch, a lingering look, or a moment where someone creates a small space just for you, don't ignore it. Thoughtful. Pause, pay attention, and understand what it might mean. Because sometimes the most important things are said without words.